Hi, I'm Dr. Elise Diamond. I'm an OBGYN and I help women with PCOS, and I have PCOS myself. This video is for educational purposes only. It's not medical advice. I really encourage you to talk with your doctor or a nutritionist before you make any big changes in how you eat. So let's talk about carbohydrates. Carbs aren't bad. Your body uses carbs and needs carbs. And with PCOS, though, often you might find that you are eating too many carbs, especially sugary ones, which will make PCOS worse. That's very clear. The evidence on that is very clear. And this is related to something we've talked about before, which is insulin resistance. When you eat a lot of carbohydrates, especially sugar, and white bread, your body makes more insulin, and with PCOS, your body does not respond to insulin the way that it should. Too much insulin can be related to weight gain, especially around the belly, irregular periods, sugar crashes, acne, and more cravings. So when we're talking about low carb, is that the same thing as a keto diet? No, not necessarily. You don't need to go full keto. In fact, you don't even need to cut out every carb forever. Instead, let's try this. Lower your carbs slowly in a way that feels doable. I usually say a good goal to aim for, start with something achievable. And a point that I recommend is starting with 100 grams of carbohydrates per day. I think you'll find that this is reasonable without making you feel deprived. And when you're just starting out, this is a very good goal to start with. Once you're able to comfortably go an entire 2 weeks with 100 grams of carbohydrates per day and you're comfortable with that, then I would recommend slowly increasing it either to 75 grams or all the way down to 50 grams. My recommendation for you at your goal would be to get to 50 grams of carbohydrates per day. And now this isn't about being perfect, but this is about balancing your body's hormones, your insulin, and your energy. So what does that look like? Well, good low carbohydrate foods would include eggs, chicken, fish, nuts, seeds, avocados, healthy oils like olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, and non-starchy vegetables. That would include broccoli, spinach, cauliflower. And in terms of fruits, I generally recommend staying away from fruits that are not in the berry family because those have a lot of sugar in them. Even though they are not necessarily unhealthy, they do have a good amount of carbohydrates and sugar in them. So the fruits that I recommend would be berries, especially blackberries, raspberries, blueberries. Those are the best. Now, foods that you're going to want to avoid, that's going to be bread, pasta, soda and juice, cereals, chips, cookies, cakes, things like that. In general, if you're going to eat a sandwich and you want to have some bread, I recommend using a lettuce wrap, or you can make wraps online. There's plenty of recipes online for how to make bread out of eggs, or you can use flour wraps. Almond flour wraps. In terms of pasta, you may want to switch that out for something like a zucchini noodle or spaghetti squash, or try a diabetic-free pasta. There are some that you can find online or at the store. I generally say that the ones that claim to be high-protein pastas still have a lot of carbohydrates, so you're going to want to find a pasta that is low glycemic index or made from something like cognac root. In terms of sodas and sugary drinks like juice, you're going to want to switch that out because the sugar hits your bloodstream almost immediately. And switching that for something bubbly like sparkling water would be a good idea. Or if you like tea or coffee, that would be also something. Water flavoring is also just really helpful, and you can use that instead of a sugary drink. In this case, if diet drinks are the way to go for you, then use that as a stepping stone. Ultimately, diet drinks can potentially throw your metabolism off, but if that's a stepping stone for you, then go ahead and use them. So ways that you're going to know if this is helping, you're going to have fewer sugar cravings. And it's kind of crazy that when you cut out sugar, you actually crave sugar less. It does take a little while for this to happen, but you're going to notice more steady energy, less bloating, more regular periods ultimately, and fewer mood swings. So again, these are small wins that have nothing to do with the number on the scale. So I want you to celebrate each and every win. And then in terms of calorie counting, I generally don't recommend that you count calories. Calories are a little bit misleading. We really want to focus on carbohydrates and grams of carbohydrates. So if you find it helpful, you can use a plate method where you do half of your plate as a non-starchy vegetable. You can do a quarter of your plate as a protein and then a quarter of your plate as a carbohydrate. So you're really restricting your carbohydrates in that way. But generally, I recommend you try to actually count the grams of carbohydrates, or at least estimate it and reach that goal of 50 grams of carbohydrates per day. All right, thanks for hanging out with me. We'll get into a little bit more in the next video when we talk about inflammatory foods and hormone disruptors.